Is it the personal fat threshold and the kind of inter-individual variation as to where that threshold is that would explain why you can have two people who are both obese, one develops type 2 diabetes and gets insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, and the other doesn't?
Yeah, I think it's probably a key variable that explains the development of that insulin resistance. Yeah, and probably the beta cell failure too. So, yeah, I do think, because it's basically if your adipose tissue is functioning well, even at a high level of fat mass, it's still going to be effective at containing that excess energy. So you're not going to get energy poisoning. And there are people who are like this. Typically what you'll see is they have a lot of subcutaneous fat under the skin, and not a lot of visceral fat in the abdominal cavity under your abs. And the former category, the people who have a lot of subcutaneous fat, some of those people are actually quite insulin sensitive. So they just have a really high personal fat threshold. They can keep gaining, and it just never, well, I don't want to say never, but they just have a much higher tolerance for that before they hit metabolic consequences. And on the other side of things, you have people who have lipodystrophy, which is a condition where you actually can't put fat on. Your fat cells are just genetically dysfunctional. And those people get insulin resistance at a very lean level of body fatness. So they could have extreme leanness and yet have a lot of insulin resistance and diabetes. And it's a little bit more complex because it also involves leptin levels. But I think that is an example of people who have as low of a personal fat threshold as you can get, and they are extremely susceptible to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And then in the middle, you see that common genetic variation in the human population impacts the likelihood of getting insulin resistant. So basically, genetic variation related to adipose tissue storage capacity. How good is your fat tissue at expanding when it needs to expand and continuing to hold on that fat? Those genes are related strongly. That's actually the main genetic signal that relates to insulin resistance in the general population.